Hey, it's Kelt. Let's talk about other countries' police stations within the United States. Roll clip.
Yeah, so I was thinking, like, no way this is true, but all you have to do is a quick Google search, and yeah. You know, when, like, us conspiracy theorists talk about, like, America first, tyrannical governments, Second Amendment, this is happening right now here in the United States in 2022, and nobody's talking about this.
So, what he's talking about is the Chinese government setting up police stations within the United States under the illusion of a nonprofit that is to help Chinese citizens do things like renew their driver's license. And this isn't a conspiracy theory at all. It is true. The Chinese government is doing this. But it's interesting that he films himself standing in front of a bunch of news articles talking about it while claiming that no one's talking about this. A lot of conspiracy theories are built off something that is true. Something has happened and then they use the conspiracy theory to exaggerate it. And what's happening is nothing outside the ordinary for any other country. Literally every other country in the world, any country that has an intelligence collection agency, does this, including the United States. We're like one of the biggest ones that do this. Espionage and spying is not just about gathering information about the citizens of the country you're targeting. It's also about monitoring your citizens that happen to be in that country. For multiple reasons. One, are they in a position that can get you more intel on your target country? Two, are they betraying your country? Three, are they criminals who need extraction back to your country? Or four, are they people who need help being extracted back into your country for their own safety? Every country does this, and not just against opposing countries. Our own allies do it to us, and we do it to our allies. We know that British intelligence agencies spied on America both during World War I and World War II, and they were our allies in both. We know Israel has turned many American citizens or have implanted their own Israeli citizens as spies within our own countries. We're allies with Israel. And unfortunately, I don't even have enough time to go into how much spying and intelligence collection France does. You know, the country that no one ever thinks about has one of the most extensive spying and espionage networks in the world. And France is also our ally. Spy catches spy all the time. It's one of the major elements of the game. But there's a few reasons why this is making major news headlines. One, it's China. That is one of the biggest conservative and Republican talking points right now, that China is supposedly the biggest threat to our national security. It's 100% a fact that the Chinese government and the American government don't play well together. But is it the biggest threat to our national security? No. The biggest threat to our national security is actually internal, but that's a different video. But this rhetoric allows Republicans and conservatives to put up the big enemy of the state, claiming, look what China's doing, while completely ignoring the fact that their best buddies, Russia, is doing the exact same thing in the United States. And this brings us to the next subject, the allegations of human rights abuses against the Chinese government against its own people. And in reality, they're not even allegations. We know for a fact that the Chinese government has a horrific history and track record on human rights abuses. And the extraction of Chinese citizens who are attempting to flee these horrific human rights abuses to take refuge in another country back to China is concerning. Because we know they're not going to get a fair trial. We know that they're not going to get humane treatment. But again, this is not an issue that is unique just to China. Russia also has a horrific human rights history and track record. And right now, Putin is conservative and Republicans' best friend. So China extracts you back to their courts for a sham trial, while Russian agents just attempt to kill you in the country you're already in. The third reason this is making major news is because of the use of Chinese shell companies or nonprofits to do these police stations. People pointing out that while the Chinese government claims that they set up these nonprofits as a way for citizens to renew their driver's license while they're overseas and couldn't travel back to China due to COVID, that this is something that's normally done in an embassy. So the outrage is the Chinese government setting up this shell company or fake nonprofit to be able to conduct this espionage on American soil. You're going to be in for a real shock when I tell you every government on the planet sets up shell companies within other countries, all for the purpose of spying and espionage, including Israel setting up a fake spa to run operations out of. This was a huge deal. They even made movies about this spa and the missions they ran out of it. This was a huge deal not only because of the missions that were ran out of this, hugely successful, but this is one of the few shell companies owned by an intelligence agency that actually turned a profit. So with all of that, know that this is making major news. One, because it's China. Two, because they got caught. 3, because unlike a lot of other countries, they're admitting that they are doing it and that they have no intention on stopping. But it's not a unique thing. It happens all the time, all over the world. And sometimes, from an intelligence standpoint, it's more worthwhile to let them continue, especially when you know what they're doing and you can use it against them. So know that it's happening, but don't freak out. It's not some World War III endgame or they pulled one up on us. But there is something you can do as an American citizen to make this better. Push for better protection and better access to our immigration programs, especially our refugee programs, so we as a country can better protect and offer services to people who are fleeing persecution and human rights abuses. So when they're approached by these foreign intelligence services, who are attempting to convince them to return back and face trial, they know we have their back and will support them and keep them safe.